Right, so like fairy tales, yeah? When you think about them, you just picture, kids' stories, happy endings, maybe a bit of a moral. But I've been hearing there's actually so much more going on, like a whole other layer, almost political, dare I say. Is that really true, Odysseus? Are we missing loads?
Oh, absolutely, Athena. It's really one of those things where the surface is just so beautifully crafted to look simple, isn't it? But underneath, a proper tangled web of social and profound political commentary. These weren't just bedtime stories. They were kind of like ancient news channels, passing on lessons, reflecting anxieties and power structures, totally woven into society for generations, really.
Wow, ancient news channels. That's a brilliant way to put it. So it's not just don't talk to strangers then. There's a whole parliament meeting happening in the background?
Exactly. And that's the genius. They're so deceptively simple, right? You think you're just getting a cautionary tale, but there's just so much more. A coded message, beneath that familiar narrative.
So if they're more than just simple stories, like what else were they doing? I mean, what kind of messages were they sending?
Well, one big thing, Athena, was shaping national identity. Like the Brothers Grimm, right? Early 19th century. They weren't just collecting stories for fun, no. They were doing it to foster a shared German culture, kind of, to resist French occupation. It was this benign nationalist idea at first, but, it got dark. Later, certain tales, like Snow White or Little Red Riding Hood, they were co-opted for Nazi propaganda, right? To promote a really specific, racially pure vision of Germany. It's a sobering thought, really, how something so seemingly innocent can be twisted,
Oh, wow. So they literally weaponize fairy tales. That's incredibly chilling, actually. I mean, you hear about propaganda, but connecting it to Snow White, that's a whole other level. So they were like deliberately curating these stories for political ends?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It shows you how powerful they are, isn't it? These narratives, they really resonate deep down.
That's fascinating, but also a bit scary, honestly. So if they can be used for nationalism, what about the hidden messages you mentioned earlier? Like, I've heard some original versions are pretty dark, right? Not exactly Disney.
Oh, totally not Disney, no. The enduring nature of fairy tales? Well, it's partly because they convey so much beneath the surface. And early versions, they often contained genuinely dark themes. Adultery, incest, cannibalism, rape, murder. Proper heavy stuff. These were sometimes veiled, obviously, to address taboo subjects symbolically. They frequently served to educate or even frighten audiences into compliance, graphically illustrating consequences.
Crikey. So they were basically horror stories disguised as lessons? Like, be good or else the wolf will actually eat your grandma and you, and it won't be a neat animation. That's a strong incentive to behave.
Precisely. And it makes sense, doesn't it? In oral cultures, that's how you transmit important, sometimes brutal societal rules. It really sticks,
Okay, so you've got my attention. Can we, dive into some specific examples? What about The Emperor's New Clothes? That feels like it's got something under the surface, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Emperor's New Clothes is a prime example. Andersen's fairy tales are considered some of the best political tales of his era, actually. That one is a powerful satire on power, sycophancy, and collective delusion. It exposes the fear of challenging authority, Everyone pretends to see these invisible clothes. The child who speaks the truth, it highlights the innocence needed to see through pretense and the absurdity of unchecked power.
Wow. And then what about Little Red Riding Hood? Because, that one's always just felt like don't talk to strangers. Is there really more to it?
Loads more. While it seems cautionary, interpretations delve into deeper social anxieties. It's commentary on female vulnerability, societal expectations, and dangers outside norms. Its evolution through different versions also reflects changing moralistic approaches to virtue and punishment. It's not just a wolf, it's a profound symbol, you know?
So, beyond the political satire, what about, like, social class stuff? Cinderella comes to mind. Is that just a rags to riches story, or is there more going on there too?
Oh, absolutely. Cinderella's a classic for social commentary. Beyond the romance, it's about social class, economic disparity, and, the aspiration for upward mobility. That rigid social structure keeping Cinderella oppressed and her eventual escape speaks to the hope for justice despite humble origins. Maria Tatar, a brilliant scholar, actually explores how fairy tales like this are used as socializing tools for children, revealing how deep those simple narratives go.
Wow! And what about the Pied Piper of Hamelin? That's a pretty dark one, isn't it? Beyond just like a family tragedy.
Oh, it is. It really offers insights into social values and the consequences of broken promises. When the townspeople refuse to pay the piper, he retaliates by leading their children away. It's a stark warning about civic responsibility and the repercussions of deceit. It's quite chilling, really.
So these stories, they're old, but are they still relevant today? I mean, do modern authors still do this kind of, hidden commentary?
Oh, absolutely. Fairy tales continue to be reinterpreted and adapted for contemporary social and political climates, showing their enduring versatility. Modern authors totally integrate social commentary into children's literature all the time. Think Dr. Seuss, right? The Lorax, for example, was a huge advocate for environmental protection. And Horton Hears a Who promoted respect for all, regardless of size or nationality. It was even a kind of apology for his earlier racist wartime cartoons, actually. Or The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch. That challenges traditional gender roles by presenting a strong, independent female protagonist. It's still happening, and it's brilliant.
That's amazing, actually. So it's not just looking back at old stories, but the tradition of embedding these messages is still totally alive and well. That's really cool.
Exactly. And that's why they endure, They evolve with us, reflect our times. They really are powerful cultural artifacts.
That's really amazing, actually. So it's not just looking back at old stories, but the tradition of embedding these messages is totally alive and well. That's really cool. So if they're still doing it today, what about something really famous, like Aladdin? Is that just a magical adventure, or is there more going on there too?
Aladdin, a fantastic example, Athena. On the surface, it's this thrilling tale of rags to riches, but it's absolutely layered with commentary. It tackles themes of social mobility, the perils of unearned power, and even, subtly, Orientalist projections from its European retellings. The genie, represents the ultimate wish fulfillment, but also the inherent dangers of desires without wisdom or true understanding.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So it's not just make a wish and get rich then. Are there other stories like that? Maybe from different cultures, where magic intervenes in social class issues or aspirations?
Absolutely. Many folktales across cultures, particularly within the vast 1001 Nights collection from which Aladdin emerged, explore similar narratives. You often find magical helpers, transformative wishes, or sudden fortune serving as catalysts for characters to overcome societal barriers. These stories often highlight the tension between fate and ambition, or the corrupting influence that can accompany sudden, overwhelming wealth. It's a surprisingly universal narrative of aspiration and its consequences.
Okay, so speaking of those really dark themes, what about Hansel and Gretel? That one always felt pretty grim. is that just a straightforward warning about, like, getting lost in the woods, or is there a whole other layer of societal anxiety woven into that story too?
Oh, absolutely, Athena. Hansel and Gretel is a chilling masterpiece of psychological and social commentary. On the surface, it's about lost children, but underneath, it's a stark narrative on the raw realities of famine, abandonment, and survival. The parents' desperate act of leading their children into the woods isn't just cruelty. It's a reflection of historical periods when families facing utter starvation sometimes resorted to infanticide or abandonment as a grim last resort.
Wow, infanticide. That's incredibly dark. So it's not just about a scary witch. It's about the very real, terrifying choices people faced in desperate times, like actual historical desperation.
Precisely. And the witch herself, in her gingerbread house luring children with sweets, embodies the ultimate perversion of maternal care and hospitality. She represents the fear of starvation transforming into cannibalism and the monstrous feminine that preys on the vulnerable. It's a story that grapples with the primal human fear of hunger and the breakdown of familial bonds under extreme duress.
That completely recontextualizes the entire story. It's not just a fairy tale anymore. It's almost like a historical account, a terrifying window into the absolute worst fears and realities of past societies. No wonder it sticks with you.
Exactly. Its enduring power lies in its unflinching portrayal of human vulnerability and the thin line between survival and savagery. It speaks to a deep, collective memory of hardship, making it far more than just a cautionary tale for children.
Wow, those are some heavy themes. So, if fairy tales reflect societal anxieties, what about Pinocchio? I mean, a puppet wanting to be a real boy, it feels like it's got some deeper meaning beyond just, like, telling the truth.
Pinocchio. A truly fascinating one, Athena. Carlo Collodi's original The Adventures of Pinocchio is far, far darker than most people realize, especially compared to the Disney version. It was published in the late 19th century in Italy and was initially serialized. Collodi's vision was incredibly moralistic, steeped in the realities of poverty and social discipline of his time.
Really? So it's not just about his nose growing? What kind of dark did Collodi have in mind for him? Was he, like, eaten by the whale and that was it?
Well, originally, Pinocchio was depicted as quite a mischievous and ungrateful character, often punished severely for his disobedience. In early versions, he actually dies. He's hanged for his misdeeds, illustrating the grim consequences of juvenile delinquency and the harsh expectations placed on poor children to conform and work. It was a stark warning, really, about what could happen if you strayed from the path of hard work and filial piety.
He gets hanged? Okay, that's a completely different story than I grew up with. So it was basically a cautionary tale about, like, getting a job and not being a layabout, rather than finding your inner truth.
Precisely. It was less about finding yourself and more about the brutal lessons of survival and social integration in a tough world. It reflects the desperate need for children to learn responsibility and the harsh penalties for failing to do so, acting as a kind of social guide through terror.
That's incredible, how these ancient narratives keep showing up. But, like, what about massive modern stories, like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter? Are they also built on those same kinds of deep archetypal foundations, or are they completely new inventions?
Oh, absolutely, Athena. It's one of the clearest testaments to the enduring power of fairy tales and folklore. Modern fantasy epics are, in essence, grand elaborations of those fundamental narrative patterns and character archetypes.
So you're saying J.R.R. Tolkien or J.K. Rowling weren't just making it all up, but they were actually tapping into something ancient? Like Harry Potter has a Cinderella or Little Red Riding Hood heart?
Precisely. Think of the chosen one trope, the clear good versus evil, the hero's journey, the magical helpers, the wise mentors, Gandalf or Dumbledore, for example. These are all direct descendants of fairy tale archetypes. Harry's journey from humble beginnings, facing immense trials, or Frodo's quest against an ultimate darkness, echo countless tales of yore. The themes are just scaled up, given immense world building, but the core narrative DNA is strikingly similar.
Wow, so these huge, complex modern sagas are essentially just supersized fairy tales with more pages and special effects?
In many fundamental ways, yes. They tap into those primal narrative instincts, those universal human experiences that fairy tales distilled so effectively. They're living proof that those foundational stories, far from being outdated, continue to be the bedrock of our most beloved contemporary narratives, constantly evolving, yet always rooted.
So, speaking of Pinocchio, that was a pretty stark example of Disney changing things. You mentioned Snow White earlier with Nazi propaganda. What about Disney's take on that story? It's the classic Disney fairy tale.
Disney's Snow White, iconic, yet a prime example of their sanitization. They smoothed the Grimm's visceral depiction of the Queen's vanity and gruesome end, creating a G-rated narrative of pure love and innocent heroism.
So they removed the really intense, scary parts, like no burning iron shoes for the evil queen?
Exactly. The original featured the Queen dancing in red-hot iron shoes until death. Disney opted for a less grisly fall. Their version set the benchmark for fairy tales, enchantment and happy endings, often overshadowing the original's complex messages.
That's wild how much they changed it. Is that why we mostly see fairy tales as just innocent kids' stories now?
Precisely. Disney's Snow White profoundly influenced popular culture, shifting fairy tales from cautionary social narratives to idealized romantic fantasies. It prioritized entertainment and moral simplicity over the folklore's grim realities.
So, if fairy tales were ancient news channels reflecting social anxieties, does modern cinema do the same? Beyond entertainment, do movies embed themes from current political, social, or scientific news, like cloning or genetic modification?
Absolutely, Athena. It's an identical mechanism, just with a larger canvas. Film is our most potent modern mirror, reflecting and shaping societal anxieties, political currents, and scientific breakthroughs in real time. It's a dynamic dialogue with our present.
Wow, so they're actively tackling things like cloning, genetic modification, or new technologies? Any examples?
Precisely. Think Gattaca, exploring genetic discrimination, or Blade Runner, grappling with AI and what defines humanity. Minority Report delves into pre-crime and surveillance. They don't just entertain, they provoke thought and stimulate public discourse on these cutting-edge issues.
That's incredible. So these blockbusters are our generation's cautionary tales and social commentaries. But instead of witches, we've got AI and genetic engineering.
Exactly. They continue that profound tradition of storytelling for collective introspection and cultural navigation.